Alright, so let's go ahead and get in a little bit more practice working with point type and area type. So we're going to simply make a title composition with a title, photo, and a little bit of text at the bottom. So I'm going to start on the title first, so I'll hit the T for the type tool. And I'm going to be using Helvetica as my typeface, but if you guys have Arial, Universe, even Verdana, those will be pretty close to what I'm using if you don't have Helvetica. And actually I'm going to use Helvetica New. So now that I have Helvetica as my typeface, I'll go ahead and use my type tool and click once and type in the City of Angels, which is referring to Los Angeles, which is in the photo. I'll select all of that and I'll go ahead and change the style to thin. I'll hit the escape key and increase the size. And I'm just going to optically space this, see what I can get. I like that. I'm going to go ahead and double click inside and highlight the angels. And I'll choose a bold italic for that. So I kind of like that. But the color of the text doesn't really speak to me right now. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a new color for this font. I'm going to select with the black arrow my title, and then I'll hit I for the eyedropper. I'll go ahead and sample from this horizon, this light yellow in the horizon. See if I can get something close to matching the photo. So I like that, but I think it's actually not bright enough. I'll double click on that on the color picker, and I'll move this over pretty close to white. Right about there. And that looks kind of cool. And I think I'm going to actually stretch this type just a little bit. So I'm going to extend the proportions. Not too much, but just enough to kind of match the feel of the skyscrapers. Okay, so now that I have this type close to how I want it, and I don't think I'm going to be making any kind of other modifications to this, I'm going to go ahead and outline this type. So to outline a type, you can come up here to the type menu and go down to create outlines, or you can hit shift command and O. Alright, so now these are actually shapes. We can't edit them like type anymore, but since they are shapes, we can now come in with the white arrow, and if we wanted to, we could start modifying these characters. We'll get in a little bit more on modifying the characters in the next exercise, but for now I'm going to use my black arrow and I'll select all of those shapes, which were characters. I'll hit Command C and then Command Shift V to paste in place. And now I'll go ahead and choose a dark color because this is going to be like the drop shadow for this text. So I'll hit I for the eyedropper, and I'll come in here and I'll actually start to sample from these skyscrapers in the distance. Cool, so I like that. I'll go ahead and get my black arrow and select all the dark characters, and I'll move those behind the white ones. So I'll hold down on the command key and then hit the left bracket key once or twice. Now that those are still selected, I'm going to hit the down arrow a couple times and the right arrow a couple times. And there we're getting this effect of a drop shadow. I might want it a little bit darker than that blue we have. So I'll just use the color picker and come in there. Okay, I'll zoom out and see how that's going. Okay, pretty good. And I'll go ahead and add some dummy text here at the bottom. I'll go back into my browser and I will find that same website, Blind Text Generator, and I will copy that text. So now it's on my clipboard. Okay, so now that I have that type copied onto the clipboard, I'm ready to draw some area type to put in here. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and reset my character panel. So I'll click here and go to reset panel, and then I'll come back and choose my Helvetica typeface, or Helvetica New in this case, and I'll change it to, I'll try 10-point font. Okay, so now I can click on my type tool and I will drag a box out for my area type. That looks about right. I'll release, and I have a bunch of dummy text. I'll go ahead and hit Command and V, and there you can see it added all that dummy text that we had copied onto the clipboard. I'll change the color of the text to white, and before I do that I need to make sure that I click inside and do Command and A to highlight all of that. Now I will come back and change the color, and I think I'm going to add a few columns. So I'll come back here into type and I will go down to area type options and I will add 3 columns. And I'll click OK. And I actually want this to be a little bit more of a narrow or horizontal composition. So I'm going to move this type box this area type box in a little bit more. And I'm going to go to my paragraph panel, and I'll actually choose my justify to the left and make sure I have the every line composer on. Come back to my character panel, and I think I'm going to decrease the tracking a little bit so that those characters come together a little bit tighter. Okay, I like that. Okay, and now I need to frame this. So I don't want this extra space up here or down in here. So to do that, we're going to use what's called a clipping mask. A clipping mask is basically any shape that you create becomes a window for all the other objects below it. So I'll kind of demonstrate what that means. All we have to do is just create any shape to be the window. So in this case, I'm going to choose the rectangle tool to make a rectangle shape. Just to make this easier to see, I'll change it to just a white stroke, and I'll come over here to this edge and I will click and drag a rectangle over that, and this is going to be the window to which all the other objects below it are shown. Alright, so that looks good. I'll release. I'll hit V for my black arrow. Now I'm going to select all of the shapes involved. So in this case, I'll do a marquee select. So this includes all the point type that we made, the area type, and the photo behind it. And I can go up to Object, Clipping Mask, and Make. I can hit Command and 7, or my favorite way is to right click and go down to Make Clipping Mask. You can see when I did that, it cropped out everything outside of that shape, and only what was inside of the shape can be seen. This is fully editable, so if I click on this, it seems like it's all been cut down into one shape, but if I double click, I'm going to go into isolation mode, and it's in this mode that I can choose each individual object and edit those. I could even click this photo and I could begin to kind of move this. I could move it around within that window. But you can see that everything's always restrained inside the borders of that object window that we made. I'll go ahead and hit Command Z a few times and get back to where we were before. And that looks about right. And when I'm done, I'll hit the escape key. We set some point type across a photo and then added our area type and then used a clipping mask to frame it.